of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, Tony D here with us right in the studio at 36 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Tony, good morning.
Good morning, and proud to be among everybody.
What's happening? So we got a lot to get to today. You heard my opening, and I want to just say thank you face to face for a great job well done, and folks up on social media are doing the same, so deserve. So you want to start with more about ethics with Laurent?
Well, yeah, we'll start with that. And, as far as that article, it was a pleasure to, be a contributor with you. And Paul Chenier, a man I never met, I thought did a wonderful job of really distilling those thoughts and providing the opportunity. So right. I just wanted to mention that.
Well, I just think it's kind of neat to be, even if it wasn't by design, it's kind of neat to be the bedrock of what is now taken off a little bit. So
yeah, and it's interesting, and I am grateful. But last week we looked at the ethics agreement, and I think we did a pretty good job of kind of picking that apart and showing what it was done and how it was constructed and why. But even though I say semaphore, you say semaphore, not exactly sure what the correct pronunciation is. But
I think the guy actually looked online, the guy who runs the company
semaphore. Semaphore. Yeah, I should be respectful.
But when I see it, I want to say SEMA. I don't know why.
But I want to make clear that let us not think that this is the only game in town concerning Ned and Annie. We've had opportunity to discuss a number of them. I'd like to go over one more today. And
sure.
Another one, just good old, like you mentioned the last time, is how does our person getting their kids ready for school or over in the sub base, kind of thing, how does this apply to me? This is good old ham and egg fraud. Okay, let's talk about Unite CT. This is a branch of Connecticut government. It is a little bit of history. It started in August of 2019. It was a combination of Unite Us, which is a Lamont equity, a Lamont family equity in the OHC portfolio, and the Connecticut Hospital Association. So we have a good nonprofit covering whatever we do. They marry up, they have Unite CT. If you're keeping score at home, there's the Consolidated Appropriations Act, or we could just call that free rent. And there's two tranches of free rent. $235.8 million in the first go-around. I guess it's 186.6, which is supposedly on the way. Now, the 235.8 million came in March, according to federal papers, of 2021. You have a year to get rid of it. You're supposed to get rid of it in December. They gave you another 3 months. Now, other states are just dispersing this money. People are, landlords, they're just doing it. But when you're Connecticut, you somehow gotta, I don't know, you have to make a project out of it and just make it a thing of self-aggrandizement and photo ops and all this other stuff. This is what we do in Connecticut. We just can't do anything simply, and we can't put the fire out. We have to have 30 million committees. So we set up a mousetrap. This mousetrap is Unite Connecticut. Now, one thing about this program, an applicant in need must use the Lamont software to apply. So we've got Ned's computer lab, pretty much, and the reports of what people have said. They can't get on it. They're not computer literate. This thing doesn't work and all this other kind of stuff. All at our expense, Lee Elci. Right. Everything just happening as it is. And all the delays are happening, largely because of this. Now, when you say, and you say to yourself, this is just simple database management. I mean, I worked in a trust bank. We had this amount of transactions. Why do we have to run this level of complication? The most frustrating thing for me is that there's $235 million in this first shot. When we look on the Connecticut records, we don't see the money coming in. So I see $174 million has been spent. I don't know where the other 60 some odd million is. But that's just for openers, pretty much as it is. Now, this all kind of runs. Think of that ethics agreement again. Doesn't cover any of this. It's like they are either the luckiest people or the most insidious planning people in the world to be able to do this stuff. And just, again, don't think this is the only single fraud in the world with these folks.
So the ethics committee doesn't, it can't look, or it doesn't look at this particular issue? Explain
It's
that.
not covered.
What do you mean by, I don't know what that means.
Well, this thing, this Unite CT,
Right.
this is part of a nonprofit.
So that means ethics can't touch it.
Can't touch it.
And, so
I think I'm watching a Republic Pictures gangster movie. It's unbelievable.
all right, so that's the 60 million that could be MIA, could be anywhere.
Anywhere. Now that's just for openers.
Okay.
Let's look to see how the money is spent
All right.
as politicians stand on stairs and take out handkerchiefs and all this other kinds. I'm not making fun of people's pain, but this is money that's supposed to go for rent. We have $1 million going to nonprofits.
Okay.
And what do these nonprofits do? They put a web page up. This is where you apply. Come through this link. $1 million. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you and I can do a web page. You did a very nice web page. I'm sure it didn't take you $1 million to do it, right? The other thing knocked me off my chair: professional fees.
Okay.
Firms, $13 million. $13 million.
Okay.
For $13 million of accounting, professional, and compliance fees, we should have every single dollar in this state accounted for on our phones, on our wristwatches.
Right.
I mean, and not only that, but you've got 4 participants. So you're going to have duplications. You're going to have errors. It's just the way it is.
Right.
And it's like, hey, everybody's just kind of running.
How many people share the 13.5? Do you know?
4.
4 share.
4.
Okay. All right.
One player has 9. If you're interested in the names, I could.
No, I was just
you can
curious.
Get me offline.
But is that a no bid or a bid?
I think it just happened.
Okay.
I mean, because
just here you go.
Yeah, here you go.
Okay.
Who's running
How
this
come
thing?
Tony D'Angelo didn't get one of those?
Well, I kind of feel left out
That's
a
what
little
I
bit.
figured.
But I'll tell you, where you know something's awry, and again, if you're in this business, if you look at these things, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. $1,200 to a baseball academy.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to do a hit and run, go big time, right? Hey, why not? Why not? But, basically, I mean, it's, and I could go on and on and on and on. I feel like Mark Levin here. But the killer in this whole thing, not mentioned anywhere, not in any Connecticut press. They just sit and kind of take down whatever these people were telling them.
Right.
There is a third party. The third party is called Yardy, YARDI Systems, that handles the disbursement of the cash.
Okay.
Now, what could go wrong? We don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying they're honest. I'm not saying they're dishonest, but there's a third-party vendor. For every political figure that sits there and says, we should use in-state vendors. This one, I think, is out of Seattle, Washington.
Oh, good.
And, it's the basic thing. Why Yardy? I mean, I think it's, why do you need a third-party vendor who's handing out money when you have a Laurent application on the way in? I mean, it's like how many...
So, what do they do?
They're disbursing cash.
They're dispersing
They're processing the payments to the people who are
Okay.
behind on their rent.
Okay.
But why Yardy, Lee Elci?
I don't know.
Because Yardy uses Urginet. Urginet is a Lamont equity. So my father would say, my father speaking to me today, too many cooks spoil the soup and you got them coming and going on both sides. This is absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, it's like you can't read about it. You can't find out. You have to sit there and do a jigsaw puzzle. And then to Bob Stefanowski's point, that poor woman in Ansonia.
Sure.
I mean, how about the poor guy in Pomfret on a Saturday night, 2:00 in the morning, who's got some familiarity with this?
Right.
This is our government.
So all roads seem to lead back to Vermont, right? Everything.
Exactly.
Like it's unbelievable. So everything that you mention, everything that you touch, even if it's in the smallest, way, it's attached somehow to Lamont,
Exactly.
and they're making some money on it.
It's not a question. I mean, and the whole thing is, how did something get there? That's not the question that you ask. The question is, what is the tie-in? What is the relationship?
Now, as far as I know, you're not a lawyer, but legality-wise, I mean, Bob talks about ethics. We've talked about ethics.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that it sort of skirts the ethic issue because they introduced
They
charity.
highly technocratized out of that.
So, is there ever going to come a point in your mind where they're going to have to come cocoa with this? They're going to have to say, "Here's where we sent 120. We made 120 million bucks. We sent it to X, Y, and Z. You ever see that happening?
I do, but you see, it's a slow go.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that we're just getting. I mean, now the mainstream has just caught on to semaphore.
Well, politically speaking, right? So here's what I've visioned from this and listening to you, and then trying to learn as much as I could. He's going to make some big announcement in October, September. He's giving $200 million to some charity that he wouldn't have done this unless, of course, people like you had ferreted out where the money was going. But it's going to make him look like a hero. Can't you see that happening?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a time-tested thing as far as whatever way you want to get it. Interesting when you look at it. The semaphore stock took a big hit yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, made the Associated Press. Governor says this stock isn't making any money.
All right. Tony, good stuff as always, man.
Thank you.
Tony D.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
And by the way, if you do decide to venture out to our event on the 24th, which is tomorrow night now, I can't believe it, Tony D will be dressed up to the nines, and he will be interviewing drivers